here, and welcome to episode 2 of Jason and the Gentleman. And once again, with it being Jason and the Gentleman, I'm joined by the gentleman of mixed martial arts, the gentleman Josh Hill. Josh, how are you doing?
I'm all right, brother. Just making it during this COVID times, like we talked about.
Yeah, man. It seems like it's getting worse since we talked last Tuesday, but we're making the most of it, as you said.
Yeah, man. How you doing? You good?
I'm doing quite well, yeah. Staying busy, enjoying that, the seasons are changing, though. The leaves are changing, seasons are changing, and I'm getting into that fall vibe, which is good. And October is a month for combat sports, especially in MMA, which is sensational with the amount of UFC cards and Bellator as well, plus some good international shows this week, especially this week with a KSW show. But I mean, MMA right now, it's just on fire, and it's thriving during these COVID times, Josh.
Yeah, it's like the only sport that's doing, well during these times, right? I mean, other sports are still playing, like, hockey just finished and basketball's still going. But I think as far as viewership wise, I think MMA is still holding strong compared to the other ones.
Yeah, I mean, there's always something going on, and you know what? There's always something to talk about in MMA, and we'll start with last weekend's UFC Fight Island 4 with Holly Holm and Irene Aldana in the main event, and man, what a performance by Holly Holm, Josh. I mean, this is a girl that a lot of people had written off, and just watching the fight, she looked as good as she did when the night she beat Ronda Rousey. Her footwork was sensational. She got a takedown in each of the 5 rounds against Aldana, who had one of the best takedown defenses in the UFC. And I just thought her boxing looked crisp. Just an all-around masterful performance from Holly Holm.
Yeah, and that's a huge win for her. Especially at her age and all her chances. She had the title, but getting title shots. But yeah, she showed, she still got it, man. She looked really good. Like you said, her footwork was probably the most impressive thing, and just the way she was able to mix things up. I actually fell asleep when I was watching it. I got a 2-year-old at home. It makes me tired, but I woke up and I watched the replay the next day. Yeah, man, she looked great. Probably the best she's ever looked, I think. Super sharp, super technical. Picked her shots well, and just like a masterful performance.
Yeah, she looked, as you said, she looked fantastic, and really, I think brought a lot of people back to reminding her how good she is. As you said, that was her best performance ever, and I would totally agree, because her boxing looked the best I think we've ever seen her, and she beat someone who a lot of people were already pigeonholing to get that next title shot at the bantamweight title in the women's division against Amanda Nunes, and right now that division totally in limbo because of that card. Holly Holm, and as well thanks to Jerron Durandame, who got herself her first submission win, choking unconscious Juliana Lima. I mean, that division was supposed to have some clarity at the end of Saturday night, and it's even more foggy after Saturday.
Yeah, it was great for those the two women, Holm and Durandame, but I guess for the UFC it kind of threw a wrench in things, because now you have Holm that like you said, won and looked great, and Jermaine Durandame got the win too, and took out Juliana. So it kind of shut down the any new contenders, and both of those women have both lost to Nunes now. So it's kind of hard to know what to do next in that division.
Do you think that they just make a rematch between Holly and Durandame at bantamweight, as they fought before at 145? Which was a fight that a lot of people didn't like and wasn't that good looking back. I mean, a lot of controversy as well with Jermaine hitting Holly a couple times after the bell had gone to end some rounds. But right now, especially with Amanda Nunes taking care of business at 145 against Megan Anderson come December, do you just make that fight right now to maybe clear up that clarity?
I think so. I think that's you're pretty much the only thing you can do right now at this point. I would say have those two fight, maybe the end of the year or January or something like that. And then, you have a clear-cut contender and kind of build up that rematch again.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing that there is to do for that division. I mean, that division needs some contenders and something to talk about, and there's time to build it too, because, Amanda, as we said, she's got to deal with Megan Anderson at featherweight for the featherweight championship. But I mean, Amanda just became a mom for the first time, so she wants to settle down after the fight for a little bit. So I could see end of first quarter 2021 them making that fight. And I mean, for Jerron and Holly to be maybe a TV main event, like a fight night main event, who knows? I don't know if it's going to be a pay-per-view or main event or anything like that, but that division needs some clarity. And as both of them proved, they're two of the top women in that division. May as well have them settle out to see who's going to become the number one contender.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's probably the right move and probably the right timeline. I think you're right.
Anything else catch your eye on the fight night card, Josh? I mean, it was a pretty good night of fights. It did go long. This felt like one of the longest fight night cards in a long time.
Yeah, like I said, I fell asleep at, I don't know what time it was. It was like almost, I think it was like 1 or 12:30. But I'm trying to think back now what fight that I really, really liked. It definitely was not the co-main event, that's for sure. What other fights was it that throw some out at me that you liked?
Well, there was Kyler Phillips and Cameron Else. I mean, Kyler Phillips at bantamweight, your division, really moved to 8-1 against a guy in Else that's been a grinder and working his way through the European scene and made a last-minute debut in the UFC. Dusko Turdovic had a second-round ground and pound finish, and of course Carlos Condit returned. Josh.
Yeah, that was it. That was the one. Yeah. That was my highlight of my night right there. You know what I mean? I seen he was fight on the card, and he was fighting Court McGee. That was the fight I wanted to see most. Man, I'm a huge Condit fan. I've been a fan of his since the WC days way back when. He went on a shitty run. I think he had lost 5 in a row. I think it was. And yeah, man, I'm so happy he got the win. I don't think you're gonna see the Condit of old come back and be championship material. I don't think, but he shows that he could still be up there amongst the tops anyway, and still put on good fights. And he's always exciting and always humble and just how do you not like Carlos Condit, man?
Well, Carlos Condit, it's a shame that injuries really derailed his career because there's a whole generation that won't know how a dominant of a welterweight the natural born killer was. Like, this was a guy that was arguably one of the most touted people that moved over from WEC to the UFC, and he had a little slow start in the UFC, then worked his way up and obviously was an interim welterweight champion and just put on just great fight after great fight. And then, as I said, injuries derailed him. But I'm so happy he got a win. I don't know what you do next with Carlos. I mean, he seems like he's still got the mindset like he could make a run for the title. I just think his body has derailed him of that. But I still want to see him in those exciting fights, like with a Matt Brown or a Robbie Lawler rematch. I mean, where do you see Carlos Condit going from this win against Court McGee, Josh?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think somebody like a Matt Brown, a Robbie Lawler, maybe a Nick Diaz rematch, thing along those lines. Somebody that's been in the game for a long time, that's a bit older, that's on the back nine of their career, and then if he keeps putting in a couple wins against guys like that, then maybe we'll see how he does with the next generation, the younger guys, the guys that are at the top right now, like a Gilbert Burns or somebody like that, But I think one of those is perfect. I love to see the Matt Brown one. I think that would be great.
I mean, it's a fight they've been trying to make forever too, and it just never came to fruition when Carlos was either interim or on the verge of becoming the interim welterweight champion. Matt Brown had that run a couple years ago. He was just winning fight after fight in exciting fashion. The literal UFC TV champion, as they always put him on those Fox cards to kick things off, and he's always sold it up. I think that's the perfect fight to make as well. But yeah, a Diaz fight as well, I think could do good as like a co-main or even like a third from main on like a pay-per-view, just to get the old MMA fans, the hardcores like us in there. And I mean, I still think Nick Diaz won that first fight they had all those years ago.
Yeah, I remember like it was close, but I have to watch it again. It's been so long, but yeah, that would be a good one. I mean, I'd love to see Nick Diaz back, man. The guy's one of the best for sure. I love him. But another name that just came to mind that I'd like to see Condit fight would be Nico Price, the guy that just fought Cowboy. I think just stylistically that would be some violence right there and very entertaining.
Well, Nico Price seems to be on that tour of just fighting guys from the WEC in the past. Like, saw how
Yeah.
thrilled he was when he fought to a draw Cowboy Cerrone a couple weekends ago. I think that would be an interesting one as well, because you're at the tipping point of a guy in Price that is on the verge of maybe being a contender, and you really get to see where Nico's at against someone that's been there, done that in Carlos Condit. So I'd be happy to see that. But I thought Carlos looked really good, Josh. I mean, he dropped Court McGee, I think, in the first round with a punch that if he had maybe an extra 5 to 10 seconds, he finishes that fight probably.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely dropped it. You could tell he broke his nose with it. So it was on the nose, which, he might not have been rocked from it, but you never know. He might have finished him. You won't know that, but Court, toughed it out and came back. But yeah, Carlos, man, he looked good. He came out, actually was doing a lot more southpaw than he usually does. So I'm sure he's been practicing that, switching his stances, and yeah, he looked very fluid in there. And the longer the fight went on, the more comfortable he looked, and he kind of was finding his groove again.
And shout out to Court McGee for setting his nose between rounds after that punch landed. I mean, you ever had a broken nose in a fight, Josh?
Knock on wood, man. I haven't yet. I know I definitely have, like, when I'm done fighting, I'm gonna have to get surgery. I got like a deviated septum on one side, it's like completely blocked. But as far as my nose being broken, it hasn't yet, and it hasn't in a fight. Not that I know of, anyway. Not like that where I had to, crank it back into place. But well, I'm trying to keep this intact somewhat.
Well, you know what? Your fighting style, you do a good job not even letting that thing get or clipped even so much. So, so far, so good on that. And I guess on the Canadian side of things, Charles Jourdain fought to a draw on that card on Saturday. A controversial one. I think a lot of people felt Jourdain won the fight, and judging's a whole other aspect in this sport. And I mean, that's the one fight really where one judge had it for Jourdain, one judge had it for his opponent, Joshua Kulileba, and the other one had it a 28-28 draw, which I don't see in that fight, but you know what? That's the result. And in the long run, it doesn't really hurt Jourdain's stock at featherweight in the UFC.
No, it doesn't. Because he had a tough loss to Feely, but he showed that he was very competitive in that fight. And I know Andre. He's one of the top featherweights in the division in the world. So he showed, even though he got the loss, it showed he can hang with some of the top guys, the top 15, top 10 guys. And I think with this, being a draw, he didn't get the win, but again, he put on an exciting fight, and probably a lot of eyes. People thought he won, so I don't think it hurts the stock at all.
No, not at all. I mean, it's tough to grow from a draw, but nonetheless, it's still not a loss, which doesn't hurt you in the rankings or getting higher ranked opponent or tougher opponents. So, yeah, that was the Saturday UFC show. I mean, this upcoming Saturday, though, Josh, I mean, if anyone can break it down against Marlon Mores this upcoming weekend in the main event for the UFC against Cory Sandhagen. I mean, interesting fight at bantamweight. We're still nothing official yet for who Peter Yan's going to fight. We've heard Aljamain Sterling, but really, if Marlon Mores wins this fight, he could get himself right back in a chance to get that bantamweight belt. And I mean, you fought him twice back in World Series of Fighting. What are you expecting in this fight, Josh, come Saturday?
Yeah, man, this is I'm excited for this one. Obviously, it's a good one. Stylistically too. Sandhagen is durable, tough guy, very long for that division, very well rounded. He's got good striking, his grappling is good, got a good gas tank, and I think that's going to be his biggest weapon in this fight. Marlon, I've been in the cage with him for over half an hour. He's explosive, he's fast, his kicks are probably his best weapon. He's very well rounded as well. His jiu-jitsu is very good. And his movement is very good. His footwork's very good. I think, Marlon's biggest setback in this will be the gas tank. I think, is it a 5-round fight? I believe it is, right?
It is, yes. It is the main event. So usually they are.
Yeah. So I think that is actually going to favor Sandhagen. I think the longer this fight goes, the better chance of him getting the victory. But I could see Marlon putting him away pretty early as well. So it's interesting fight. I mean, Sandhagen's coming off the loss to Aljamain. Aljamain, I think in that fight was like, a minute or two. he took his back and subbed him really quick. So he didn't even get to showcase much, and kind of unfortunate for him the way the loss played out. But yeah, I think it's either going to be an earlier finish for Marlon, or I could see a late finish or a late decision win for Sandhagen.
Yeah, it's such an interesting fight because, a lot of people felt Marlon didn't beat Jose Aldo in that fight that they had towards the end of last year. And as you said, Cory Sandhagen had his 7-fight win streak snapped in a minute and a half by Aljamain Sterling, who just took the back pretty much and choked him out right away. It's interesting. I think this could be the breakthrough fight that Cory Sandhagen wanted. He was supposed to fight Frankie Edgar before Frankie Edgar then took the fight with Korean Zombie towards the end of last year in South Korea. So this could be the real big breakthrough fight for him. But with Moraes, you never can count him out. This is a guy, if you think he's done or not going to be making a run in this division, he can just hit you with one big right hand or a head kick, and that can just end the night so quickly. So this is a real interesting fight. And once again, this bantamweight division here in the UFC is just so interesting because whoever wins this could be in line for a title shot. And we know that allegedly Dana has said that Aljamain Sterling is for sure going to get the shot, but nothing's official. So it's a crapshoot right now at 135.
Yeah, man, this is I'm biased, of course, but I think this is the best division in the world. The deepest in the UFC for sure, and I think in Bellator as well. But yeah, this fight is gonna be good. I think Marlon, he fought and was beating Cejudo up to win that world title. You know what I mean? And after that first round, I'm like, man, I don't think Cejudo's gonna be able to continue this. He's battered. But I think Marlon just pushed the gas pedal down a little too early, and credit to Cejudo, man. He's tough and took it and waited out and kind of poured it on Marlon after. And I think Marlon looked like he had a big adrenaline dump in that fight and just kind of gassed out, halfway through that second, third round there. So if he can conserve his gas and kind of pick his shots and look to land the big one and chip away at Sandhagen's leg and his body, I could see him definitely getting this win and maybe propelling him into a title shot. But I think it'll probably be Aljamain Sterling next, I think, versus Jan.
I would hope so. I think Aljo's done enough. He's campaigned enough. He's got the resume to prove why he deserves to take on Peter Yan next. It's just we're waiting for something official. Maybe it'll be at the beginning of 2021. UFC 255 just did lose Cody Garbrandt. He's out with the torn bicep. You could maybe put that fight there if they're ready. Who knows? Still, a lot's going to be settled at 135 after Saturday for the UFC. But, Josh, 135, as you said, it's an interesting division. And in your promotion, Bellator, they had themselves another event in Milan, Italy. This one highlighted for Bellator Euro Series 9. James Gallagher was in the main event, and he took on Cal Eleanor and in pretty much quick work, really dominated Eleanor. Got on the feet quickly, then took the fight to the ground and took Eleanor's back, was working for the submission, and then with about 30 seconds left in the first, was able to tap out Eleanor with a rear naked choke. And, James then had a lot of interesting stuff to say that, he wants to fight anyone next and, give him the belt and give him a lot of money and he'll fight all these top contenders. And as someone in that division, Josh, what did you think of the performance? And obviously you've called that you want to fight him. You'd like to fight James Gallagher. Do you see that happening? It seems like Gallagher has to fight someone of your caliber next.
Yeah. He did had a great performance. Came out, got the takedown, really no damage, took the back, and then got the finish. So it was a great performance on his behalf. Cal Eleanor, he seems like a good dude, and he seems like a decent fighter, but, he is not amongst that top, 5 or 10 in that division for sure. Gallagher, he likes to chirp and call everybody out, but he doesn't seem to want to fight the best. And I think he's fought a solid guy in his whole career, and that was Ricky Bandejas. And Bandejas, gave it to him pretty good and knocked him out in the first round. So I think, if he's going to step up and fight somebody like a myself or a Patrick Mix or a Pettis or a Stotts or Eric Perez, somebody of that caliber, if he wants to actually, prove that he's one of the best in Bellator in the world, and is in line for a title shot. But I don't see it. I don't think he is. Yeah, I would love that fight. I've been asking for that fight since I've joined the promotion, because I think he is a pretty big name, and he boosts himself up pretty good, and he's got a big Irish following out there, and they all love him. But I think of the bigger names in the promotion, I think he's the easier fight. So why not take that one? Somebody that the stock is going to be big just because of his name and his mouth. But I think it's an easier fight than some of the guys I just mentioned.
Well, I mean, for Bellator, they have created a star, and he's got the buzz as Gallagher, training with Conor, and a 10-1 record. That's nothing to sneeze at. But if you want to grow your brand and be true to what you say, that you're the best bantamweight in you have to come to North America, and you have to fight someone like you, or Rafael Stotts, or a rematch with Ricky Bandejas, or Apache Mix, or someone of that caliber. If you want to be able to take the next level in your career, you can't just stick it out in Europe and keep fighting, good names in Europe, which are sure one thing, but you're not going to get that recognition, and then it's just going to look like you're picking your opponents. And I think he has to take that next step. It'll be interesting to see what they do with him. Obviously, there's a pandemic and certain travel restrictions right now going on, but I think for James Gallagher, especially with this new deal on CBS Sports Network for Bellator, has to be one of the guys on those shows. And, hopefully it'd be against you, because, heck, I even saw you tweet that you weren't super impressed with the performance.
No, the performance was all right, but I just think it, I don't want to diss on Eleanor, but I just think it's step up in competition, and I don't think that would happen. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. He's got to find that step up, and I think the promotion and Bellator knows that they need to step up, because they have someone marketable that they've created themselves, and that's the mode Bellator is in right now. We talked about this last week. Instead of just really signing guys that used to be just from the UFC right there, they're signing up and coming prospects. Just look at the list. They had such a big wave of talent signing last week, highlighted by Khabib Nurmagomedov's cousin Usman.
Yeah. I seen the list there Coker put out. I think it was within a week they've signed 15 guys. A lot, like you said, Nurmagomedov's cousin. They signed Scoggins, who is a CFFC champ. They signed another Brett Johns from the UFC, who left the UFC. I think he was on a 2-fight win streak, I believe, and fought out his contract and then signed with Bellator. So he's another one to add to the mix now in that top bantamweight division. So, man, they keep signing all these guys, and they're growing it. And it seems like they're signing a new bantamweight every week, and that division just getting deeper and deeper, man. So I see myself having tough fights from here on. I've had tough fights already, but every fight now is just going to be super tough, just because there's so many good guys now.
But as a fighter for this promotion, Josh, because I think you've kind of caught in right on the beginning of the wave of this kind of transition of the mindset for Bellator. That has to be exciting for you, that Bellator is looking at the youth movement for the promotion instead of guys from the past, because we know MMA is a young man's sport, and there's a lot of exciting fights to make, especially in your division, but you're getting to potentially create more stars for yourselves, and that's the longevity of this sport.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. These they're building such a deep division, bantamweight, all weight classes, but especially with bantamweight. Now that you're gonna have an easily top 20 division, instead of having sometimes before it was you had the same 8 guys fighting each other, and that's all it was. They just keep rotating through. But now it's gonna be so deep where it's there's gonna be endless possibilities for matchups.
Yeah, Brett Johns is a big signing too. As you said, Jared Scoggins is a big one, because CFFC's been just banging out some quality shows during this pandemic, and he was one of the guys that they focused on a lot. And, it's happy that Bellator got, for Bellator to get Usman Nurmagomedov, that's a huge deal for them, because everyone just would assume you just follow in the footstep of your cousin, sign with the UFC, but Bellator are able to sneak in, and from what I've heard, Usman's the best of the family.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about him, but he's got a big name behind him. He's gonna have some big shoes to fill. Following, he's gonna have a lot of pressure on him. Everybody's gonna think he's as good as Khabib. But now he's got a chance to kind of be his own fighter in Bellator, instead of being shadowed by his cousin in the UFC. So there's another signing too that I seen It was Jeremy Kennedy,
Yeah,
Canadian. So that was another one that I seen. That was a big signing for Bellator as well.
some more Canadians as well added to the promotion, which is always a good thing. I mean, trying to fill the void for them in that department with Rory leaving, going to the PFL, and Bellator's always needed some more Canadian guys, and hopefully once this is over, they can return to Canada. I mean, I think it's been since 2013 that promotion has not entered the true white north. So I mean, I would like to see it. I think it's a good move as well for Jeremy Kennedy to come to Bellator because he was in the PFL. It wasn't the best of runs, and who knows what's going on with the PFL. I mean, I just saw that they have a bunch of fighters that are suing the promotion, whereas today the PFL just announced they've signed a wave of fighters. I don't know how you're signing fighters right now, especially when you're not having cards or whatnot. So good move for Jeremy Kennedy. And right now, because of that, Bellator is reaping the rewards of, PFL was supposed to be the number 3. They're not putting on events this year. You're cashing in right now.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I did like what PFL was doing. I like their format, the season type thing. They're paying good money, which is always great for the fighters. So I was a big fan. I mean, it's out of their control with the pandemic. It kind of screws everything up. But I mean, there has to have been some way to kind of put these fights on. I mean, Bellator's doing it, UFC's doing it. I would hope they could figure out a way to do it. But yeah, I seen Lance saying, him and a bunch of other fighters are putting a lawsuit against them, and obviously that sucks. That's just gonna get ugly. Hopefully not, but usually it always does. But yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, Bellator is reaping some of the rewards. I wouldn't want to be a fighter right now that is freshly signed with PFL. Just because there's no shows at all this year and there's none really planned. And usually they don't start their seasons until I think May. So that's a long time sitting on the shelf with nothing planned.
Yeah, what do you think of this lawsuit, Josh? I mean, I'll stick with the fighters. I think, their mindset is this is a short time sport and PFL canceling has really taken a lot of my livelihood and there's not enough income. I think PFL, when they canceled, it was when everyone was canceling everything. But I think you could have maybe, fixed things up or found a way to put on events or at least let your fighter have like a one free fight out because they're champions for the season, but they're not official champions. So it's really not a loss for the fighter, like losing a title or anything like that. So it's not the end of the world. And I understand the mindset of them, filing suit. They need some income and they want to be active because just sitting on the shelf for a year, that's not going to be productive for anyone.
No, and yeah, I'll side with the fighters because I'm one of them, right? But I can understand their frustration, especially if I was signed with them right now and had a whole year off. I mean, that's a long time, especially somebody that's like, say, a fighter that's in their mid 30s or even late 30s, and they're trying to make a last push here, and they got to make as much money as they can, and now they're sitting on the shelf for a year and getting very minimal pay just to put in their pocket, and they're not getting a chance to compete either, which sucks. So yeah, there has to have been some type of solution that they could have come up with, either not having the season format for that year and just having regular fights, or letting them out for, like you said, for a fight and returning to their contracts or something. But yeah, sitting on the shelf for more than a year is not good for anybody.
I think if any fight league could have done a bubble format, I think the PFL was the perfect one for it. Like they're based it on a season. You can have your regular season be a month or what have you for each weight class. Then once whoever makes it to the playoffs, you have your playoffs the following month, and then or week or what have you, and then by the end you can have a champion within a couple weeks. Like that was the perfect, I think, league for a bubble format. And I don't know why PFL didn't even think about looking into that.
Yeah, I agree. It could have been like they could have did a whole season in 3 months or something like that. I guess the only issue would be injuries. There'd probably be a lot of them with not a lot of time to recover between fights. But yeah, man, I definitely think you could have done something there for sure. Even just if it was a condensed a month with lesser fights, maybe having, you win 2 fights or 3 fights, then you go to the finals or something like that along those lines, like an old school tournament style. There could have been something, I'm sure. I mean, I'm not in the logistics behind it and the business behind it, so It's easier said than done, but yeah, I wish there was something for the promotion and for the fighters.
So do I. I mean, as you said, I like what PFL was doing too. They brought an interesting mindset and idea towards MMA instead of just a tournament or whatever. They treated it, as a season, which I think worked out nice for them. But as we said, having everyone sit on the shelf for a year, it doesn't help anyone. And signing fighters right now in the middle of a lawsuit, it's an interesting look. Obviously, it's trying to distract from the news of that lawsuit that Lance Palmer and a bunch of other fighters for the PFL have put out. But hopefully this gets resolved, and PFL maybe has like a single show at the end of the year or something like that.
Yeah, I hope so, man. We'll see what happens, but I mean, I doubt they'll have one show. I bet you they'll just start fresh and in the springtime. If everything's good by then, we'll see. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens with those guys. It's a question mark right now.
It's definitely a question mark, but your promotion, Bellator, they keep moving on. They make their debut in Paris, France this upcoming Saturday with Michael Venom Page on the card. Czech Congo in the main event against Tim Johnson. I mean, once again, we talked about this. They've had a successful couple weeks there in Italy. They've built up that Italy market pretty substantially, and now they get to enter a new market for a new country that just finally legalized MMA. And I think Bellator, they're going about it the right directions here. And then after this, they're heading back to stateside for their full real debut on CBS Sports Network with Cyborg.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome, man. I love it. Yeah, they went to Italy. They did a whole bunch of like a Euro series, they called it out there, which gave all the European fighters a chance to fight and get on a card because they can't come to North America. And then yeah, going to France, man, that's huge. I remember I had a couple guys I train with Alpha Male that are from France, and they always come down and they always are talking about how it's still illegal there, and it's going to come soon. It's coming soon. They're going to legalize it soon. And then now I guess finally they did it, and Bellator is going to be the first big promotion in there, which is pretty cool. So yeah, it's I mean, they got Czech Congo. It makes sense, obviously, as the main event, and MVP. I know he's not from France, but he's a big European star out there, so it's a good co-main event as well.
Yeah, it's gonna be exciting because I mean it's Bellator being the ones to get through there. I mean, we know UFC talked about for years when they thought France was gonna legalize the sport that they'd be the first ones to have a show in Paris or something, but it's Bellator being the front runners, and just this mindset change from Bellator I think's been a big positive as they lost a lot of momentum at the start of the pandemic. They're really building it back up with these signings, these international events, and this new TV deal. I think there's a lot to be excited for as 2020 comes to a close for Bellator.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm pumped. I'm glad I'm part of the promotion, and I can't wait to see what the future holds because they're doing a lot of good things right now. And with Coker at the helm, I think it's in a bright future.
Yeah, for sure. And as well, this past week, Josh, LFA, they returned and they ran their first of 3 shows in the state of Kansas. Asker beat Kevin Worth in the main event by unanimous decision. But the state of Kansas, Josh, one of the first states that is using open scoring for their judges. We've seen Invicta, because they run a lot of their shows out of the state of Kansas, take part in this as Kansas is trying to help improve the sport with judging. What do you think of open scoring? Because personally, I'm a big proponent of it.
So when you say open, I didn't know about this. When you say open scoring, does that mean they have to show what they're giving in between rounds, or is that how it's going? Oh, I love it, man. I love it. I was watching, I forget who, I think it was Jens Paulover that said it, and I agree exactly with him. I think after every round, a judge should put up a blue or a red flag or whatever to say who he gave the round to, just to show, first of all, what he's thinking, who won the round, because some judges are totally out of their mind and they don't know what they're looking at. And also just to give the fighter in the corner some knowledge of what's going on, if they're down 2 rounds, if they're up a round, or whatever the case may be. So I think it should be open judging, and I think the judges should be held accountable because a lot of them should not even be judging. They have no idea what they're doing. A lot of them are old school boxing judges from 30 years ago that have no idea about mixed martial arts. Some are just people that got in there because of their position in the commissions. And yeah, I just think it needs a whole huge overhaul. I think it should be, personally ex-fighters that, or at least people that competed in the sport, that judge. I know that can get a little bit controversial because you don't want to have a conflict of interest, which, with a training partner that you're judging or whatnot, like something like that. But it has to be better than it is now, because right now it's horrible.
I think Kansas is taking the step of the open scoring is awesome, especially as LFA and on Fight Pass. They showed how they do it. Like the round ends, and then the judges, they quickly tabulate, and then they put up an iPad or something like that. Just like, yep, this is the round I've scored. And the corners can choose to use that or not. I mean, the thing I've heard about the negative side of open scoring is, well, if I'm up 2 rounds, I'm just going to coast and make it a not entertaining fight. But I think the opposite, what normally should happen is if you're down 2 rounds and you're down 2 rounds, you got to go out there and push the pace and try to get a finish, because you're not winning it on the scorecards as the judges have it openly there. And most sports have the score available for everyone. We know what the score is in a football game, hockey game, basketball game. Why can't the fighters know that as well?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that makes perfect sense. And I think there should be more than 3 judges as well. I don't think 3 is enough. I think you should have at least 5. I think 5 would be, I mean, if you go more than 5, then it's going to be, tight. I mean, everybody's seated around the cage and whatnot. But I think they should go to 5 judges. Sometimes you just get some bonehead in there that just kind of ruins everything and throws everything off, right? So with 5 at least, if one guy's way out to lunch, at least there's 4 more that might have a better idea of what's happening.
Yeah, 5. I've started to hear this 5 trend. I mean, I think it'd be interesting. I don't see it happening in the near future, but I mean, we've seen some bad scorecards this year. So anything that Kansas is trying to implement for other commissions, I'm all for. Like, we've seen some bad scorecards. Like, mostly the one I can think of is Jasmine Jasdavicius fight in CFFC. No idea how you can lose a fight, a split decision, when you end the fight in freaking mount and raining down ground and pound. But you know what? That's why I'm not a judge. Unfortunately, some old boxing commission guy was there in the state of Pennsylvania. But anything to help improve judging in this sport will be a positive, and Kansas will be doing that. And we know someone that's actually going to be in the main event at the next LFA show. Aaron Jeffries in the main event for LFA 93 on October 16th. So Aaron gets a big opportunity on Fight Pass again.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm looking forward to seeing him get in there and get another W. He's been training hard, man, and I think if he gets this win, I think it'll kind of probably put him right back in an opportunity to get a UFC shot or some big organization, because he has the skill set to do it for sure. And his own, he went on the Contender Series and lost to Allen, who is a really, really good fighter. So there's no shame in that one. And I think he's he's there, man. He's got all the tools to be there.
He definitely does, and I think his win in the SFT, the Brazilian promotion's debut show, where he finished it with like a big right hand in the 3rd round, really got a lot of people getting his eyeballs on him. And I think, as the saying goes, sometimes a loss is the best thing. When he lost to Brendan Allen on the Contender Series, he's really taken his game to such another level. He's been more aggressive with his boxing, can really mix it up, and he's got cardio for days. So I think this is a great opportunity for him, and as you said, a win probably gets him in the mix for maybe going back to the UFC, Bellator, one of these other promotions. Who knows? But he's definitely on the verge of making his dreams come true.
Yep, I agree, and he's got a good mindset on him, and like you said, he learned a lot from that loss, and he's built on that, and I think he's better than ever now. So he's there.
He definitely is. I mean, it's a big week, as we said before. KSW has a show in Europe. You kind of broke down the main event there of Cory Sandhagen and Mores. I mean, this is going to be it's a big week for combat sport, or month for combat sports in October, Josh. I mean, it just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah, I'm not complaining, man. I mean, the more fights, the better. I love it. So yeah, it's a good week and a good month, and it's gonna keep coming. I think the rest of this year is gonna be really good, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, MMA just builds up to a good crescendo for the rest of 2020 with some big events coming up, and I'm excited to see what happens with this sport. More great things are gonna happen. I mean, just hopefully here in Ontario, things could happen. I know that's probably not going to be the case for this year, especially with, as we said, the numbers of COVID cases are insane. But, 2021 is looking to be a huge year for MMA in this province, Josh.
Yeah, and I can't wait to get back on the mic and call some BTC fights, man.
Yeah.
I had high hopes. I thought we could, do at least maybe one or two by the end of this year. But then, these, I don't know, this COVID and just numbers keep going back up, and the commissions aren't allowing things to happen. So I don't know what's going to happen. I'm wishful thinking, I would have one before the end of the year's out, but as of right now, nothing's planned. We'll just hopefully this ends quick and we can get back to work. But yeah, I'm missing being on the mic, man.
Same with me. I mean, there's, especially seeing how the regional scenes pop back up a little bit in the States. Yeah. And it's just, I know we're taking it a little more serious than parts of the United States with this virus, which still there's a lot of unknowns about. But man, I miss it, especially when you see some of these great regional shows that are going on, whether it's CFFC. I know WXC in Michigan, they're having a show at the end of the month as well. LFA's gotten going. I mean, you just miss it, and you get to see the faces of the future. But if anything, 2021 we'll see. Well, I can wait it out. And 2021, we'll get back with BTC and Prospect, PFC, and a host of others. I mean, I'm just excited to see, what the year off brings. It's kind of like when you go back to school for the first time. It's like, I missed all my friends and everything like that. But I'm excited to see what happens for the year, and that'll bring us to a close here, Josh. I mean, you have any plug your social media and any shout-outs for the week?
No, just at Gentleman J Hill. You can always find me there on Instagram and Twitter. And shout outs for the week. Not really, man. I got no news or anything right now. Fight news should be coming soon. I can't wait to share that with everybody, and I can't wait to get back in there, man.
Yeah, well, we're all excited for when you get back in that Bellator cage, looking to go 3-0 when that news happens. My only shout out for the week, definitely shout out the Buffalo Bills, 4-0 for the second time since like 2008. So looking to go 5-0 this week against Tennessee, if that game even happens, because the Titans have themselves a outbreak of the coronavirus.
Nice. That sucks.
Yeah, that sucks, but you know what? This show definitely did not suck, and MMA is picking up, as we said. So, Josh, same bat channel, same bat time next Tuesday. Thanks for joining me, and we'll talk again next week to break it all down yet again.
Always, brother. See you later, everybody.